Money and matrimony, two things that can be really complicated. That's why our next guest says getting on the same page with your partner needs to be a priority.
Yes, so the first step, breaking down some of the myths couples believe about managing money, and here to help us do so is founder of Money and Matrimony, Danielle Davis. Danielle, thanks for being with us, and we've quizzed you very in-depthly about your relationship. You are still married to your middle school sweetheart, so clearly you have the details to success. First up, though, why is money such a huge issue to discuss in relationships?
I mean, when you're bringing two different people together with two different personalities, two different styles, they're raised differently. That's a recipe for disaster. And so you have to just find a way to, just find some common ground in your relationship in regards to your finances.
Right. Danielle, what are some of the big money myths that couples just seem to always fall into?
Yeah, so first, my partner does not need to know what I spend money on. When we save or spend money without our partner's knowledge, this is called financial infidelity. So any dishonesty, or let's say you omit something, that is called financial infidelity. And if you're trying to build a relationship that's built on honesty and trust, then this is not a myth that you want to believe.
I agree with you, and I also think it's very relative, because there are a lot of times when you're in a relationship and maybe one of the partners doesn't make the same as the other, but there still needs to be some semblance of a boundary, because it doesn't mean just because one makes more that everything should fall on that shoulder, right? Or should it?
Absolutely. I agree with that. So my spouse and I do not make the same income. But what we do in our family is we just kind of throw all the money in a gumbo pot. And I know there's a lot of couples out there that don't do the same thing, but that is something that works for us. We put all the money in the gumbo pot. We're from New Orleans, so that's why you hear me talking about gumbo. We throw all the money in the pot, and that's how we take care of our bills. Now, we have our little side money that we use for miscellaneous things that we want to take care of, but for the most part, we're dumping all our money into the same pot.
So it's shared, relative.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Interesting. So Danielle, when do you start the conversation about money? Because I think a lot of people, there's some trepidation into when you approach that conversation.
Yes, this conversation should be started long before marriage, before engagement. When you are dating, I think the conversation of money should come up, because that's when you'll learn, about what limiting beliefs that your partner might have, how, what thoughts or feelings that they have about money. And so it's good to get that information out early, and that way you can work on some of those challenges early.
Absolutely, because money is one of the biggest reasons for divorce when people break it down, right? So how do you get past that disagreement? Because it's one thing to say you find a common ground, but sometimes it's very hard to get to that common ground, because one is still kind of salty about this common ground that they didn't want to agree to, if you will.
It's all in the communication, and it requires a shift in mindset, and on the behalf of both partners. When there is a shift in your mindset, then you start to see shifts in the finances. And so I think communication is just the key. You're not going to win every battle. In my relationship, my husband is more of the spender, and I am definitely more of the saver. So sometimes I have to give a little, sometimes he has to give a little. It's just about working together.
Right, and we know how you treat your money is symbolic for a lot of things in your life, right? Danielle, at what point should you say, let me see in black and white your credit score, what you got in your checking, your savings, your portfolio? Is that something you should request, everything out there, or is that tacky?
No, I do not think that's tacky. Once you get to a level where you feel like this might be the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with, I think it's time to really, really get in those get into those numbers. I don't believe that on the first date you should be like, let me see your checking account. Let me know your credit score. Let me see your credit report. No, not on those first few dates. But if you see that this is something serious and that you're headed to engagement and then eventually marriage, then go ahead, ask for those numbers. Don't wait until you're married and, you said your wedding vows to start talking about this
And you
stuff.
find out he's like $100,000 in debt that you had no
Right.
idea
Oh,
about.
that's a problem.
Okay, let's bring in the whole gang right now because I know they've got questions as well. Ben's waving his hand. What do you got?
If you have, my wife and I, we have a joint account, then we have our own separate money to spend on things like that. And if she buys something extravagant, or if I buy something extravagant, should the other partner have any say in that whatsoever? Because it's not from our joint account. Should we just be like, it's your money, do your thing, or should we actually have some authority there?
Okay, so I'll just tell you what we do over here. We do have our own little personal accounts where we're free to do whatever it is that we want to do. However, when we are making big purchases, regardless as to which account it's in, whether it's in the joint account or the personal accounts, we still kind of run it by each other. So, if it's a couple of $100, we're going to talk about it. If it's a couple of $1,000, we're absolutely going to talk about it.
I should have asked her before I bought the Ferrari.
I don't know. I disagree because if that's your own money, right? You're already adding to the joint pot. That's your own money. Why should you have to get approval?
I think that it's not about approval. It's just like saying,
courtesy.
I'm going to just run this by you. Yeah, it's just a courtesy. And you don't have to give that courtesy, but that's just what works over here. We run it by each other. I might have my money on the side and I want to save up for a big purchase. I'll just run it by him. And that's how we operate, and it works for us. Right. But, it's just a courtesy. It's not like I'm saying, well, look, I have my personal money over here. Is it okay if I go buy this expensive purse? I'm not asking. I'm just kind of running it.
Right. And it's also great for accountability, so your partner can keep you honest. Yeah.
Exactly. Maybe he wants to give me a few $100s out of his personal account. I don't know. So I'm going to run it by him.
And for that reason alone, you should run it by him.
Right. Exactly.
This has been great. Thank you so much for your honesty and all the good information you provided today.
You are so welcome. Thank you for having me.
All right. Take care.